As an educator, you need to begin to start developing a philosophy. And a philosophy of education would include an overall general thinking about what students should be taught and how they should be taught. In this video, we're going to look at the 4 theories of education, which are based on different philosophies throughout history, and hopefully you will start to begin to develop your own philosophy. And I want you to begin looking at, do you fit in with any of these theories? Do you agree with them or disagree with them? And how do your thoughts fit into those theories? The 4 theories are broken down into 3 categories. One, either subject-centered, child-centered, or society-centered, according to their beliefs. As you can see from this slide, subject-centered will include perennialism and essentialism. Child-centered will include progressivism, and society-centered includes the critical theory. We're going to look first at the subject-centered theories. The first one is perennialism. Perennialism is considered to be a curriculum that is constant and unchanging. Basically, that means that a perennialist would believe that whatever was taught 20 or 30 years ago is the same thing that should be taught to our students or in our schools today. The perennialist theory is based very heavily on literature, especially the works of our Western culture, great books of our Western culture. So like the high school curriculum, secondary curriculum would include classics such as the Iliad and the Odyssey. Those is what their focus would be on. Elementary curriculum is still very strong in the language arts and the literature. It would also include the math curriculum as well. I think the biggest thing to take away from perennialists, though, is that it is constant and unchanging, and that what was taught many years ago is what should still be taught today through literature. That literature is the big foundation for this one. Perennialists believe that we develop our critical thinking, our thoughts, and our opinions based on literature that has been passed down through the years. And then they would believe that you would get your skills that you would need maybe as a profession or later in life down the road. That the purpose of school is to develop your critical thinking through literature. The second subject-centered theory is essentialism. So this one focuses on the basic skills of reading, writing, and arithmetic. And then that would be in your elementary. Secondary would also include your, a little bit more of the English and foreign language and science in there as well. But, the biggest thing with essentialism is knowing that it focuses on the basics. A big difference between essentialism and perennialism is that essentialism believes that the curriculum should be continually changing to keep up with the needs and the demands of what's going on in the current times. So, perennialists believed that what was taught 20 years ago is the same thing that should be taught today. Essentialists would not feel that way. They would believe that we need to focus on, the current times, and literature isn't as big of a focus for the essentialist viewpoint. Essentialists believe in academic excellence and competition. They believe in using research to follow the methods. So, they would want to do lots of research to know what are the best methods for teaching in a classroom, and using that research to back it up and before using it. Essentialists also like the standardized testing because they believe that is what provides accountability for our teachers and gives proof of student learning and preparation for life. The big takeaway, remember that both of the subject-centered curriculums are perennialist and essentialist. And remember that subject-centered means it focuses on the teacher or the subject matter. Students are expected to keep up with what is happening, and it's their responsibility to stay on track with what's going on in the classroom. Next, we're going to look at the child-centered theory, which is progressivism. Now remember, unlike the subject-centered curriculums, a child-centered curriculum focuses on the individual needs and interests of a student. So in progressivism, that's the focus, individualization. What are the students' needs and what do they want to learn about? There's a lot of active learning in this classroom, a lot of problem solving, a lot of group work, more of a democratic classroom where students have a voice and participate in the discussions, in even exploring where the direction of the curriculum, of where it might go. It's very much based on getting the students involved, getting them to be part of the learning process, as opposed to the subject-centered curriculums where the teacher was the focus and they gave them the information, told them what to learn, and it was expected of the students to learn it. A child-centered, or the progressivism theory, gives students more of that voice and a little bit more direction in where it goes with the curriculum. So the biggest thing here is to think about a lot more active learning in this type of classroom, problem solving, real world problem solving, so using real life situations in the curriculum to how do you apply this, how do you use this in the real world kind of thing. And a lot more meeting the individual needs of students, looking at them as individuals as opposed to a whole group and the needs of the group. This one is looking at the individual needs of a student. And the last one we're going to look at is a society-centered theory, which is the critical theory. This one is rooted in neo-Marxism and a postmodern theory. The focus of this one is looking at social conflict, empowerment, and social injustices that might be happening in society. They would believe that you should pay particular attention to those injustices or social conflicts in the local area. The big idea with this one is that they would believe that the curriculum should focus on, and teaching should focus on, how do we teach students to change that system or to change those injustices, those conflicts, those things that are going on in society, to really raise consciousness about those issues that are happening, and how do we empower students to make those changes in society. And then that's what the curriculum would focus around. They might also include autobiographies of people that have been oppressed throughout history or throughout society. So, the big thing here is the focus is on society, what is happening, how do we create social justice for all people.